We've got our panel. We've got our torque screwdrivers. We've got our regular screwdrivers. We even got some DeWalt's. The question is, should you be using an impact like this inside of an electrical panel? And the short answer is no, you shouldn't. But we're going to show you why. I see a lot of content creators with millions of views that are doing this, and it sends the wrong message. So we've got our adapters. We've got our terminal bars. If we look at this sub panel here, what's up, Buds Bill? Didn't plan on doing this, you know, you guys, I am sick, but life goes on. So we've got a $300 torque wrench set, torque screwdriver set here. We've got this set to 34 inch-pounds. If we look at our tightening torque values here, you'll see this is a slotted screw. What you're going to see is 15 foot-pounds, number 12 through 10, 20. Number, you know, the larger numbers you get, this is all of your inch-pound values to tighten all your conductors to all these bars. All we really have to do is take this at a 34 value, tighten one of these bars, and see if the impact makes it tighter or looser. And if it's not exactly what this torque value says, quite simply, you did it wrong. If I was an insurance adjuster and I found that the manufacturer's installation instructions were not followed, I think I'd be making those insurance companies a bunch of money. Fortunately for you guys, they don't know it like that. But it only took them about 10 years to catch on to the federal Pacific panels. And now you can't even insure hardly any buildings with federals. It's only a matter of time before they start cracking down on what is the code for tightening things inside of panels. On anything with a torque value, 110.14 says basically anything with a torque value shall be torqued to that specification. So if it's got it on there, you got to do it. And I've got a code book here. We're going to look into it here in a second. We're going to wait till we get, I don't know, maybe about 20 people in here, and then we'll start. For now, we will look at the code book because I'm going to turn all this into a short. We're going to find, I believe it's D, terminal connection torque. Tightening torque values for terminal connection shall be indicated on the equipment or installation instructions provided by the manufacturer, and approved means shall be used to achieve the indicated torque value. Okay, so it says here verbatim in the code book that the equipment shall have a torque value and a listed method shall be used to provide the value. So that's directly saying whatever you're installing, you must use a torque wrench, pretty much. That's pretty much how the code book words it, the way I'm familiar with the code book. So if we look in here, what we're going to do, we're going to tighten all these up with an impact, different impacts. We've got a Metabo, we got a DeWalt, we've got the Milwaukee, we got the Makita. We're going to be using the same adapter here with the same number 2 square, the S2 Robertson. And then we're going to be tightening the wires with our torque screwdriver to the specs. If we look at the specs here, we're going to see basically this is the accessories, but we're wanting to see what the ground and neutral wire values are. And if we look on here, we've got tightening torque, equipment ground slotted screw. We got about 35 for 14 through 10. So we're gonna do about 35 foot-pounds or inch-pounds on this, which is quite a bit. And we're gonna see what the difference between an impact and a torque screwdriver will do. So without further ado, that's what we're doing, and we're gonna get started right now. I'm gonna bring my phone over here closer so you guys can see. And then depending on how the night goes, we might jump into StreamYard here in a little bit, talk about it with the closer group, almost more like our community than all these random bozos that jump in the chat. Okay, So we've got this set to 30 right there. We're going to set this to, we got this at 34. I'm going to go ahead and set this also to 30, which is done like this. 32, 28, there's 30 there. Okay, we're going to take this at 30 and we're going to start to tighten these down on our wire. So we got to get some wire. I'll check out the chat here in a second, guys. Now what you're going to find is as soon as we get to the proper value of torque, this thing's going to click and it's going to stop tightening automatically. It's going to start to slip. You can see where we're actually getting quite a bit of torque on this. And there you go. That's where it slips there. We can test it to our $300 set. This is my thought on this $300 WeHa set, okay? You see how big my hands are? While it's impressive of how small this screwdriver is, it's almost too small. It's no different than the length of this, except you've got way more real estate on a handle. A lot of these German tools, man, I think the guys overseas have small hands. I don't know what to tell you. But with exception to Canada, of course, man, those guys have it swinging. Of course, what's up, Sayer? But maybe in Germany, I don't know, man. That is tiny, guys. It's a very small screwdriver. One of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of the WeHas, when it's a control screwdriver, it's a little bit different. But I've been trying to get torque on this, and this isn't my favorite. For $300, I would definitely do your research. Let's see if this is going to click, slip. Yep, same thing. So these are very similar. The question is, can we put a wire right beside it? Now, everyone in the chat told me to give this a little bump with the Milwaukee. And they wanted it in self-tapper mode, I think. And they wanted me to bump this once. This is what they see the professionals do on YouTube. Okay, so let's get it a little bit tight. Then we got to give a little bump. One bump. A bump. Okay. Let's see, are we already to the value? Is it going to click? Nope, we're still getting more torque on that. So it wasn't tightened to spec. Now it's tightened to specification. So it wasn't even that the torque wrench was too tight. It actually wasn't, or the impact driver was too tight. It wasn't tight enough. And that's also a problem. Loose connections, actually, when they set up the booth and they started making this a code, they actually found that electricians, because they went to trade shows with actual professionals, and they found that electricians were actually not tightening things as tight. And there was a less percentage that was actually over tightening versus not tightening enough. So we'll do it again. I'm going to take it out of driver mode. I'm just going to do number 1. And we'll give it a bump and a half or something. I don't know. Let's just see. This feels so wrong to have this in the panel. Let's examine them. Let's examine it. This is after we torqued it to the specification. Okay. Nice. Flat, still strong, not gonna break here. Gonna take a bunch of bends to break it, right? Yeah, that's oh, it didn't even break on the actual crease was more here and it broke down there. But it took a lot of bends. And you saw the nice even spread of the wire where the screw was completely flattened down. And that's because we torqued it, right? This one should look very similar because we used a screwdriver and it looks very similar. Let's see how it breaks. It feels very similar. Probably gonna break in the same spot. Let's see. Yep. So let's get a new strip on this. New piece of wire. The Milwaukee strippers, man, love them or hate them, they strip really nicely. And the shear cut design, it's not completely flat and flat. It's kind of curved and curved. They cut really nice too. I'm not a fan of Milwaukee hand tools regularly, but credit where it's due. Okay, let's go over here to a screw we have not jacked with. Let's give it 1 bump. So we're going to get it tight. And someone might say that's probably tight enough because they said, oh no, I never let the impact. So we're just going to let it like that. That's what they might say is okay. So let's leave that one alone. And let's make another one here. See, you see how small my real estate is and we're still stripping this? Very good strippers. Let's go over here and we're actually going to do 1 whole bump. There, okay. And let's do 1 more. Same gauge wire, different color, number 12. And we're gonna do 2 bumps on this one. Okay, that's a small little bump there. 2 bumps, 1 bump, no bump. So we'll take the $300 screwdriver and we're going to tighten this up. Hang on a second. Let's get our number 2 here. Still set to 30. Honestly, I kind of want to see what they look like before we pull them off, because there's no point in tightening torque. But this one's going to be the loosest. This one's going to be the second tightest. And this one's going to be the absolute tightest here, based on what we did. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at the loosest one. Let's just look at the loosest one, because look, it's not even like that's how tight it is. Right, so if you're trying to justify you using a tool on this and you don't even know how tight the damn thing is because you're using a drill motor and you never even got to actually feel it with your own muscles, that's what you're doing there. So this isn't even tight, which would explain why I pull so many damn wires off of terminals. But we're going to just look at this and we're going to look at what it looks like. So you can see where it's just a little bit flat, nothing too crazy. Man, I kind of want to see this one because it's not going to change. Oh, that's also loose. You can see how loose that is. That is very loose. You can tell right here that it turns. And I'm curious on how much more torque it takes to tighten this properly to specification. But before I do that, I do want to look at it. Pretty easy to break off, honestly. Kind of looks like it was aggressively tightened there. Definitely mashed more copper off on this side. I'm going to try to put it back where I found it and tighten it back up. Which should be, yeah, it's going to fall right there. Okay, so we're going to give it the full torque that it needs. Okay, that's it. Actually, to be honest with you, the impact kind of canned that screw out a little bit. Not impressed with that. Let's try this screw. Another really great reason why you shouldn't be using impacts, because you can see where that bump has actually damaged these screws and I can't get a good grab on them like I could before. So we are no longer able to grab the screws. What we're going to have to do, we're probably going to take our actual terminating screwdriver with some of the best bits and best bit shapes on the market on a interchangeable bit screwdriver. And we're going to have to loosen them ourselves. And you're going to see just the value of this screwdriver because it's probably not going to cam out. So yeah, see, we still have full control on this. Let's see. Yeah, we can still get this tighter. We're definitely seated in there better. Yeah, and we can definitely get it tighter. But as far as the head of these screws, the impact actually damaged them. So that's interesting. Let's move on from the Milwaukee to something a lot more gentle, which would be the Makita. We're going to go up here to a completely different set of terminal screws. And we're going to tighten down this black with the Makita. Let's give it some bumps. There we go. That's it. I feel like that's honestly a pretty fair bump. Question is, how tight is it? So we're going to go, it's not even tight. It's not even close to tight. There we go. See here. Yeah, so that's tight now. You can see where it is definitely not going anywhere. Let's take it off and see what it looks like. One thing I will say is that using an impact on these looks pretty similar to the original one. Something tells you that's what you want your wire to look like when you tighten it down. It just seems like pretty consistent on the 30 inch-pound range of this panel. If I was to tighten this down by hand, and I was to say I feel like I did a good job, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I would say about there for me is where I would probably stop. That's what I would say. Let's see, did I tighten it enough by hand or should we be using a torque tool? Hard to say. Might have over tightened it. Let's see what it looks like. Pretty similar. So by hand is just as good, I guess you would say. We got similar results as long as you're tightening these and you know how tight you need to get them. Because it's pretty darn tight I'm going to do a couple of bumps on the Makita and see if we can get the proper tightness. Looks like it needs 2 bumps. Everyone in the comments in the short told me that 1 bump was too much. And I don't know, that's just not the case right now. So let's go right here. We're going to go 2, maybe 3 bumps. See, these screws are getting cammed out pretty good. Let's go down here on this one. Okay, here we go. 1, 2. So we're easily achieving an unknown value with these impacts. Let's see if it's tight enough. Oh, very easily clickable. Let's back it off. The answer is, you know, it's just hard to tell what the value is on a drill motor, which is what I learned from the get-go, was that if you can't physically feel how tight something is, and it's a termination that requires a specification, how do you know you're achieving that specification? Let's look at a receptacle. Or a switch. Look at a switch. No, we need a number 1 on this. I tend to use flatheads when it comes to devices anyway. These things are only like 14 inch-pounds, in case you didn't know. Might even say it on here. Probably not. It definitely says it on the website. So in this case, it doesn't say it on the actual product. And I see people put, you know, impacts on these things all the time. I'm not saying you got to use a torque screwdriver on every freaking receptacle, but, you know, you guys should know these things have a torque value on them. So if we set this to 17, 14, we'll put it to 15 to be generous. And we start to tighten this thing up. And yes, I always pinch my conductor. Just like that, always. Well, not overlapping like that, but like that, always. See when it clicks? That's it. Would I tighten it more myself if it was me? Answer is probably yes. Let's see. Actually, no. It kind of bottomed out. It really didn't want to go anymore. So 15 inch-pounds is all you need on this. If we put this on an impact, what does it do? Breaks the screw terminal for starters. What about this side? I wonder how many inch-pounds that is. Let's go over, because you want to go a percentage over to see if it'll actually torque. And we're going to see if we can get some more tightness on this. Or is it too tight? Okay, so it didn't even move. Let's go back a little bit to, let's go back a little bit and see what it says. So you got an unknown value on this one. We got a calibrated value on this one. And we saw where the screwdriver tightened it just as good as the calibrated tool. And we flat out don't know what this value is. So in short, based on the National Electric Code, yes, it says Nico. That's a Nico. So we're going to be comparing these two here pretty soon. But we calibrated this in for about 15 minutes before the live. And pretty similar. The wheel is just too small, man, to be using. It's okay. But I was going to get a different one. I was going to get the Vera. But it only went up to like 20 inch-pounds and then it stopped. So when we go here to, this is still set at 30, right? And let's say we tighten this one. This is gonna be kind of rough because it's a flathead. Tighten this one to 30. See, I just can't get enough torque on the handle. Like it actually fights me because the handle is so small when trying to use this, but we achieved the value. When we set this to 30, it's a bigger handle. It's a lot more control. It's probably 1 inch-pound off. I mean, it's not a $300 torque tool. No point in pretending like it is, but it's close enough. And it's a torque tool. So there, same thing. Got the same click. So we didn't start to tighten more than it already was. So that's why we're using this. It's just easier to use, easier to operate. The whole handle is just, and they're literally the same size for the, well, no, they're not. Actually, they're kind of huge. So credit where it's due with how small this is and all the technology and everything in it. But man, it's hard to hang on to this small little screwdriver while you're trying to torque with it. I believe my hand is calibrated to 3, probably. No, the Nico's not $200. The Nico's like 60, maybe 70. If you need more than 20 inch-pounds, you're doing it wrong. The spec on this was 30. I chose myself more than torque values because what if the terminal screw is cross-threaded, then you click out before it gets tight. Exactly. My whole deal is just don't be using impacts in panels. I never even thought that would even be a thing in this industry. And I see a bunch of people do it. I wonder if I got a breaker here. I bet I do. I bet I've got a breaker here. Hang on. I know we got a breaker. Breakers have torque values on them as well. There's a breaker. It says also 30 inch-pound right there. 30 inch-pounds. So we'll give it a go. We're gonna put a wire underneath there. I think we should. We'll tighten it with this piece of crap. Hang on. Get you guys a better angle. Okay, here we go. How many bumps, guys? This is a breaker. This is terrible. This is terrible. Here we go. One bump. One bump. Here we go. That's one bump. So, hey, I used a impact. And I definitely didn't over tighten it because I did one bump, right? That's what everybody says. Let's take our $300 torque screwdriver, set to the breaker specification, and let's see how much one bump is. No, we're still tightening it. You can hear it getting tighter. So we'll go to 2 bumps. Wire's not tight enough per specification right now. We're gonna go to 2 bumps. On an 840. Okay. 2 bumps should be good. Still at 30 foot-pounds here. Is it tight enough? Nope, we're still tightening it. So we'll give it a good drat like that, right? Let's go. There we go. That's got to be it. They told me in the chat that was too much. Here we go. Nope, we're still tightening it. Now, mind you, I did feel it about to slip. No, I didn't. It's still tightening. Let's take a Makita. Let's give it one more bump. I didn't go anything. Let me do one more. Ooh. I have to throw this breaker away. And here we go. Okay, now it's tight. The question is it too tight? Because you know you got that sweet spot. So let's see what it looks like. We're gonna examine both wires. So this is a brand new strip, no damage on it, just like the other one. And we're just gonna tighten this like a regular person. Right there. Oh my goodness. Drop my wire. Wire's real short. There we go. Okay. Now, if I was doing this for realsies, I would probably get it tight enough to where I was happy with it, like this, where I knew the wire wasn't going to go anywhere, right? I'd get them all like that, and then I'd run through and I'd do a whole torque inspection on the panel, and then we'd actually start to tighten. You can see we're actually getting quite a bit of torque on it. Trying to get you guys more light. Okay, there we go. Now we're tight. Let's compare. Pretty flat, nothing too crazy. Look at that, we've actually got a better landing. So this was the one, this was nothing. This was the back end. These were terminated. You can see where this still, even though it torqued, it's different. It's just kind of dented in. This one here is actually flatter. You can see where the screw actually has like margins where it's grabbing the copper better. So even if you baby an impact to the spec and then use a torque wrench, it still doesn't do it quite as good as just the old-fashioned method of tightening it down first with the screwdriver and then torquing it properly. Just like the manufacturer installation instructions all tell us to do. There's a good view of it. Do it one more time. One more time. We'll go here. We're just going to tighten it down to where it's happy so it's not moving. We'll put the Makita on it. go. That's what I would do if I was a madman. Is it tight? Because everyone swears that it should be because it was an impact. No, we are still tightening it. What does it look like when it's not properly tightened? Let's see. Real easy to break off. The fact is that as current moves through these conductors, they move a little bit. So in time, these connections, I wouldn't say they get loose, but they kind of get loose. You have something every once in a while in larger buildings called torque and cleans, where you go through and you make sure that everything is still tight. There, that's to spec. Let's see if there's a difference. And I think there is a difference. So the summary is probably get an eco for 60. Yeah, I would. Look, at the end of the day, it's a calibrated tool. You're using something, whether or not it's within 1 or 2, that's open to interpretation. But I've used cheap tools that were better than the real ones. And I've used real ones that are way better than the cheap ones. Because I've got a $300 tool that I don't use that often because it's just harder to get leverage on, I've got a way to test this and make sure that it's still working properly. So if you've got a way to kind of make sure that things are working and nothing's crazy's going on, you haven't dropped it, I would say go with this. Let's see here. Let's just tighten this with the Nico. We're going to set this to 30. It is set to 30. So we go 30 on the Nico. Oops. Okay, that's 30 on the Nico. Let's see if what the WEA thinks about it. Hang on a second, camera's in the way. There we go. See what the WEA thinks about it. I'm having a hard time turning this WEA because it just doesn't have enough leverage. And I'm trying to hold the light and hold the panel and not bump the camera. And there's just not very much leverage on this tool for $300. That's all I'm gonna say. And I think the screw is starting to strip. Yeah, I think the screw is stripped now. We probably tightened it too. Let's see, let's loosen it and then tighten it back up. Oh, the screw ain't freaking having it, man. We probably destroyed this breaker. The second I put an impact on it, this breaker was trash. There. Yeah, handle's just too small to get leverage on this. My hands are too big. It might not be the case for you, but let's go back and check. 30. Yeah, close enough. Okay, so we played with receptacles, we played with terminal bars, we played with breakers. What we found was in some cases these don't tighten enough. One guy told me in the comments that I probably over tightened it because I did too many ugga-duggas. One guy said I didn't do enough. The truth is they just don't know. Nobody knows because you don't have a torque wrench on it. So there's no point in talking about what could be when you don't know. Haha, what's up, Apache? All right, well, that's all I got right here. We'll see you guys.